Good afternoon, US. Good evening, UK, and welcome to Paranormal Path Peeps. And tonight I've got a few friends on, and we're going to talk about equipment. There seems to be a lot of things on at the moment where there's equipment, people saying this works, that doesn't, and the debunking things, and yeah, okay. So thought we'd just have a discussion about it, and then if anyone's got any views on it, then that's great. Just let's see what people have to say. Oh, cheers for sharing, Nigel. Thank you so much. And Nigel is from the North Pole. It must be freezing there, but thank you. Okay, so first off, we've got Ant, my former teammate. How are you doing, Ant?
Evening, everybody.
So Eric says there's a group today. Hiya. And Michelle, welcome.
Hello,
So
everyone.
you're from Haunted Heritage, so a local Midlands events group. So you do a lot of the very historic places in the Midlands.
Absolutely, and we love it.
Yeah, that's right. And we have Wayne. How you doing?
Evening. Good, thanks.
The spooky Nori himself. So what do you do then, Wayne?
What do? I do all sorts. I'm an author of ghost stories.
I think Mark should be working. Hi, Mark.
I'm also presenter of Truth Beyond Paranormal, which is an online paranormal investigation show where we do live feeds as well as record for each episode. And I also run Spookinori Events Limited as well.
That's awesome. And then we've got Mark. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm all good, thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me on tonight.
That's brilliant. So you might recognise a few of these faces. I've met these people first on Facebook, and I've actually met everyone here in person as well. So I've got Louisa watching, Leah Tooley, AJ, Mark, Helen J. Lawson, Jude Harris, Damasa, but thanks everyone for watching. So for anyone just joining us, there's quite a few people at the moment going on sort of saying, right, this piece of equipment doesn't work, that's rubbish and everything. I thought we'd just have a basic conversation about it and see what your views are and see what ours are, because sometimes I don't think it's that easy to debunk equipment in the way that people sort of say it is. So, hi Tracy, hope you're well. So, I like trying to work. Hi Andy, I like trying to work by my senses. It's something I think when I first started paranormal, I used to use a pendulum. I bought my first K2. That was the biggest bit of kit then, and then I have got a lot of kit now, and generally I carry it places, but I wouldn't always use it. Got little cat balls. I've got EDI, K2, bits and bobs. But what's your favourite piece of equipment then, Ant?
Well, I suppose there's an obvious one. Being a psychic medium, it's my own senses. However, for years now, and obviously, like you say, we've worked together, I still love to use any sort of either cat ball or voice recorder, spirit boxes. I'll have a go with anything. I'm open to trying anything, because I think even though people are trying to debunk all the equipment these days, I personally think you can use it as a confirmation tool. It doesn't matter what you do at the event. Sometimes those gadgets, which covers a lot, I know calling them gadgets, but it just confirms a lot of what you are doing at a particular event at a particular time. It's nice to get the confirmation. So I've got, like yourself and like most people, I've got a case ram full of hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of stuff, and I do take it with me to events and sometimes use it and let customers use it, etc. Let friends use it, I use it. Like I say, it's just nice that certain piece of equipment that you use on events give you the confirmation, and it's like a backup. So yeah, but apparently that's all rubbish. So I don't know really. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, that's it. Michelle, what about you?
Well, for me, I'm a bit like yourself. I've gone through the whole circle of buying some basic kit, dowsing, and all the rest of it. And we went through a stage with Haunted Heritage having loads of kit. And now we've gone back to more basic, raw investigations. We've still got a nice selection of kit that all the guests go to use. But I think we all like to go down a bit more raw, using natural intuition. And yet we use pendulums still. And of course, good old cat balls, they're always there. And let's face facts, for me, because I'm coming from a customer's event perspective, something that flashes, customers love it. It's great to get them started, but it's a favourite bit of kit, me.
Yeah. But you are brilliant with dowsing rods.
I have my moments.
Yeah, I do like it when you use dowsing rods. I don't get on with them. They're like little helicopters with me. I nearly poked my eyes out. I just spin like mad. But Michelle did actually teach me to use them.
Yeah.
To some degree. No, I did it at the Derby Museum. And they pointed me to a specific picture. So, and then I used mediumship skills and actually picked something up on that. But yeah. So Wayne.
With me, it is mainly my own senses. Obviously, I prefer back to basics. I prefer more sort of trusting my own instincts and my own senses. But obviously, then it's only hearsay. It's only I've just seen this or I've just heard that. So you need something to document it. Yeah. So obviously, having something like a video camera or your mobile phone to video what's going on as well is essential. But equipment wise, I've always loved dowsing rods. Dowsing rods and me seem to get on like a house on fire. And as an example, we did an investigation at Ruffin Control Tower in Bury St Edmunds, and my partner Ellen had been all the way up there. My partner had been getting this name beginning with a J, and we'd never been. This was the first ever time we'd been to Ruffin. And we'd walked into the lower floor of the control tower, and she was using the dowsing rods to start off with, and nothing was happening. We had slight movement, and that was it. I took hold of the dowsing rods, and they went bananas. Wow. And we literally started communicating straight away with someone, and we got the name Jack. We got that his equipment was still in the room, and he actually took us to the display case with a navigator's compass in from, I think it was a B-17. And we asked him if it was his, and he replied that it was, because obviously it's a series of yes-no questions, really, isn't it? So we'd been saying, point us in the direction, is this yours? And it would open for yes. And then when we finished that part of the investigation, everybody went upstairs apart from my partner and her friend. And I got called back down after a couple of minutes into a room next door, and she said, look at the first picture on the wall. And as I looked, there on the wall is a picture of a B-17 and its crew, and in the bottom right hand corner was navigator Jack Fryer.
Wow.
So
and we'd never been there before, and obviously for 4 hours prior to us going there, Ellen kept saying, I'm getting the name Jay is going to come through tonight. And Ellen's no way, in any way, shape or form, clairvoyant or in any form of medium. And yet something was telling her this name beginning with a J was going to come through. And to actually see the person's face that we were talking to and had come through to Ellen, it blew me away. And so as a result, I love going back there, and I will deliberately talk to Jack through the dowsing rods every time we go in there.
Wow, that is awesome. That really is brilliant. Right, I'm just going to bring Von in, then we'll speak to Mark. So welcome, Von. How are you doing?
Hello, sorry I'm late.
No problem. It's always one, isn't there?
Yeah, it's always me.
So,
hi, everyone.
So you're with Matrix Paranormal?
Yes.
And you've been investigating for a while?
A long time now. It'll be about 10 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we've just sort of basically, we're going through the equipment, sort of what our preferences are, etc. So we've spoken to everyone. I'm just about to speak to Mark to find out what your preference is then, Mark.
Right. Well, in the past, I've used everything from dowsing rods to crystals to cat balls. I've had some really good positive results with them. But in more recent months, I'm using my own senses, and they're coming into their own on location. So I'm with quite a few of you on that one. But as I was saying before we went live, last year I was at Rougham Control Tower, but a different investigation to what Wayne was on. We were on the ground floor and we all saw this cat ball just suddenly start rolling along the floor, lighting up as it went.
Wow.
And it was moving towards the person that was calling out.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. We
said-
tried to. Sorry?
You can get some strange things happening, can't you?
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
absolutely. Yeah, it was good validation as well that day, because it's a level floor as well. It's not tilting or anything or sloping. So how that move was fantastic.
But I know that
Can I
you
just
will
jump in?
always try and debunk things, whatever you do, though, to the nth degree.
Absolutely, yeah. We did try, and there was no breeze, there was no wind, because it was in one of the back rooms, well away from the main entrance, even though we were on the ground floor.
Wow, Mitch.
So, yeah.
Right, to do with cat balls, we had a team out at a location in North Nottingham at the weekend. They're in a particular room where there's a bed. They had the cat balls in there. All sorts of stuff was going off. They were going to move on to another area, collected all the kit in. As they're walking away, they actually heard voices coming from the room they literally just walked out of, went back in there, and someone took a photograph of 2 indents in the bed as if some people had been sitting on the bed. You're talking within moments of leaving the room. So that was rather a curious thing that went on.
Wow, it's brilliant, isn't it? When you get unusual things like that. So we've got Louisa, possibly found a water source with dowsing rods in investigation last weekend. Our spirit's there to confirm, but without digging up the location, I'm not sure how to go about confirming which.
Yeah, we don't dig up anywhere.
And then we've got Jeanette told father-in-law about it, and apparently they used to use them for finding underground electric cables also. So Van, hello, and what's your favourite tool then?
I've purposely worked with all different ones, but I think I like the dowsing rods. I like me VPs.
Yeah.
But I've got where I've tried to dabble with a lot of things to see which I'm happy with, that I think are right for me. And I've virtually come back down to just using your own senses.
Yeah.
Obviously having a few things to verify it, but as for the ball, the little cat balls, I think it depends on the situation. You can put it somewhere with no breeze, where it's not too hot, not too cold. But I've witnessed it myself where they've actually moved and rolled across for no reason whatsoever. We've even dug the leaves up to make sure there's no mice or anything around. But I also witnessed Kerry and Wayne at the Abbey. And it was the viewers who said, ask it to roll off the step. And it did.
Wow.
With the ball. So, and she's got that on video to show you. And that was unbelievable.
That's fantastic.
Was it spirit or not? I don't know. It depends how you feel yourself, I think. You know what you feel's right to yourself. You debunk everything yourself. And
yeah, we do. This is it. Like a lot of people that I mix with actually debunk things to the nth degree. And we might actually go too far on it. Like, obviously, we've got the old orb pictures, you know, like a lot of us, what is it, you know? What do you think of an orb? A lot of the
Well,
time
that's
it's
one for
dust,
discussion,
isn't
isn't
it?
there?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, well, we're not going into that one, but
Well,
debatable.
yeah, I mean, the whole orb debate, what I can say about that is our youngest, who's severely disabled, we have a full night vision, two-way intercom video monitor, so his room's surveyed 24/7 basically. But it's probably funny to some people, but when we lay him down to bed at night, and he has to have medication to help him sleep, and if my wife doesn't speak to the spirits, because we have about six spirits living with us, they'll tickle him, they'll do all sorts, and if she goes in and tells them off or speaks over the monitor, it calms down. And only at the time when he's either been suddenly in a fit of laughter and giggle at 4 a.m. or something, on the video monitor itself, honestly, orbs, and they don't move like dust. They can zigzag, they can go change speed, they'll be around his bed. It's absolutely crazy. And unless my wife Tracy basically tells them off, the spirits, because she knows some of them by name, and one of them goes back as far as a great granddad, you know, it's insane how fast it calms down if she basically keys the microphone on the two-way system or enters the room and says, you know, stop it, enough is enough now, step away, etc., etc. And you can take from that what you like. I'm a big believer in orbs when they're not moving in a certain way as like dust, as in when they are moving very fast and up and down, left zigzag diag, you know. But that's just my personal opinion about that.
yeah, that's it. And that's the thing about this. Like, everyone's got opinions. Can we say anyone's right or wrong? We don't know. We haven't passed. We don't know. You know, we just assume, don't we, that we try and work out theories.
Yeah.
And that's all we can.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing is, my wife, she's like an empath, and she's good at sensing certain things and helping people when she can tell they need help, kind of thing. Whereas me being the psychic medium, they don't pay the blind bit of attention to me whatsoever. They just totally ignore me.
Oh, way. Are they related to her, that you said? Yeah.
At least one of them is, yes.
Yeah.
One of them's a great granddad or a great granddad from World War One.
Nice that she's got that protection around her. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Isn't it? We've got
just speaking about equipment. One thing I struggle with, and that is white noise boxes or spirit boxes.
SB7, SB11.
Yeah, I just really, unless it's really obvious when it comes through, I struggle to actually make out what other people are hearing.
I concur. I agree with you on that, because my biggest problem with them, and it's probably the same with you, is whenever they're at an event, people get them out, they put them to such a loud volume, add all the echo on them, all the effects, and it just gets a bit overpowering. And in the end, you can't even work with your own senses, can you?
No.
Yeah.
I've just never liked SB7s. You know, spirit boxes, to me, all they are is radios with a scan button.
Yeah.
And they're just scanning through the FM frequency or the AM frequency, and if it's scrolling slow enough, it will give you enough to actually give you full words or a full sentence. And it's down to you then. You've got to interpretate what's been said on that box to the location. So you really, what you want is you want to experience the stuff there and then. You don't want to have to experience the stuff, then go away and spend 7 hours doing research.
Yeah, I know.
So
yeah, and
you want it to be fluid, and I find I've got the SB7, and what I've done is I've just tuned it into solid white noise. I won't let it scan. I'll keep it on solid white noise and leave it at that, and have a dictaphone by the side of it, and then record that.
Yeah. I mean, I personally believe that, like a lot of equipment as well, they the people who build them probably install a microphone inside, because they can repeat names or words that have been said at an investigation, just like our mobile phones. We all know they do listen, even when you've got them locked away,
Yeah.
put on the side, you know. And I think spirit boxes can also pick up on what's being spoke about in the room and what's been said.
That's it. Oh, here we go. Scott is asking about necrophonic. Does anyone here use necrophonic?
Sometimes, but it's I wouldn't take it as gospel. I
Yeah.
have used it sometimes, but to me, it's just you can't back
Gobbledygook.
it up. It's gobbledygook. And I do believe that picks words up,
Right.
repeats
Okay.
things that are said. That's just my
Right, okay.
opinion.
Yeah, but my director uses necrophonic. She loves it. I don't know why, but she loves it. And we were filming on last Saturday, not Saturday gone, but the Saturday before. And we were actually getting a French lady talking to us, and we were actually getting a conversation from her. And to be honest, I think that is the only time that they've used the app that I've actually gone, hang on a minute, we keep getting these French words coming through. And this went on for about 10 minutes.
Wow, it's brilliant.
And so obviously what is going on with that app? Because obviously that's a program that has been downloaded onto a mobile phone. So what information within that program is actually making any sense? So, you know, it's like a lot of the apps. I think they're just mainly entertainment purposes only. But you have to make, again, it's one of those research tools, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
that's
get these
right.
words coming
Yeah.
through. You need something to record those words, and then you've got to spend your time redoing the research on the location and the words that have come through to see if there's a connection. And, you know, if you haven't come out with anything at the end of it, you've wasted all that time and you've got nothing to show for it.
Yeah, I can fully understand that.
Yeah.
We used the Alice DNA on our events, and me and Jill were at a place in Leicester doing a beginner's night. And the words that came through on the Alice device were so unique, pertinent. You couldn't have written it better. I mean, there's an archaeological dig taking place in the cathedral just a few, less than 50 meters away. 1,000 bodies have been found. All the information, you couldn't have it just blew us away. But that was the first time we've actually had the most amazing session using Alice DNA. Before that, it's just been a little bit random, but that one-off blew me away. I think that's all you need sometimes, that one true unique experience to actually convert your opinions about a particular piece of kit.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to mention this. Right, so favourite piece is the spirit box. What suits one doesn't suit another. Double and triple evidence. Our own senses and honesty. Brian Holloway does the best apps. Now, Leslie was going to appear on here and join in the chat, and she's actually got one of his apps for Team Spirit Paranormal. And she's had great evidence with that. She has had brilliant evidence. Yeah. And I've actually been to Scotland with it. I met different teams, Robbie as well. I met Robbie up there. And we were investigating. We had probably a Team Spirit or even the Wings app on. And we're getting Scottish voices out. And Scottish words and Scottish names. Now, the thing is, I know that these apps are like reverse audio. There's no actual words in there. And it comes across from multiple banks. So how on earth are you getting words out? And also, if you're using Team Spirit, if it's part of the voices from Leslie's team, from South Yorkshire, well, that's not a Scottish accent, is it? You know, so how? You know, like everything we do, we just question.
I think it was Team Spirits that night when you was in Scotland, because I was watching that one and I said it's just spoken in a Scottish accent, that, and it was I can't remember what it said.
It was
appropriate to what you. We were
Yeah,
a bit blown away at the time about that, and I'm sure that was a Team Spirit one.
Yeah, and Hunter Scotland gets Scottish accents through, and you know you can't explain it. And a lot sort of say that apps are rubbish and whatever, and quite frankly, they don't work for me a lot. You know, a lot of the time you just get the noise and I can't. But I think you've also got to be able to listen to it as well and hear it.
Yeah.
You've got to tune into it somehow as well, haven't you? There's times
Yeah, I
you can,
mean,
I
the
can't.
thing is, with all these electronic gadgets, especially the ones that are, you know, are scanning, putting out words, letters, voices, etc., etc. Like you say, with people in the field like ourselves, you sort of use your own senses with them, but that doesn't stop that now and again, like you were just saying, you get this one massive hit of just unexplainable confirmation, audio, noises, names, etc. And in your case, especially in the local sort of linguistics, you know, there's now and again you do get amazing results. So, you know, people can take from that whatever they like at the end of the day, but they do work to a certain degree, and sometimes even people like ourselves, they just blow us away.
Now, let's
But
start
with
then.
that,
I'm going to ask this question out to everyone. Okay, see what you think.
Mhm.
Do you think people's energy work with specific tools?
Mm.
Now, I'm under a theory that I know what works with me and I know what doesn't. I'd love to get EVPs. I've only had one and I deleted it by accident.
Oops.
Confession. I know. God's sake. And I'm sure I know that time there's like 2 EVPs that night, and there's this red wax box that I've interacted with 2 years at Haunted Antiques, and either me or MJ got the thing saying, "Let me out of here," and it was clear on an EVP on this red wax box.
Wow.
And I don't know
Yeah,
if I got it or MJ did, but oh my god, the one I got was for, you know, it could have been that, and I deleted it.
I totally agree with what you're saying there, that what you're getting at, Jackie, because I've had amazing results with certain pieces of equipment. Like you can all agree with me on this, where other people at the same event in another room, oh no, this is rubbish, it did not work for me, blah blah, you know, and whereas I'm like, well, I've had amazing results. Listen to this, or you know. So I think sometimes it is purely, the way I look at it is to debunk it, if you like. It's purely chance whether it works with anybody, but it's your mindset, isn't it? It's what's in your mind at the time. If you're getting blown away, you even, you know, even yourself, you think, wow, this actually is working. Whereas someone else in an upstairs room or something might come back and say, well, that was just rubbish, you know. So I get what you're saying with that, totally.
Yeah. What about you then, Michelle?
Well, I'm laughing because it's sometimes our K2 meters are just going off. That we've got the red ones, just going off.
I haven't worked your K2 meters out. I really haven't.
And sometimes you're thinking, this can't be right. You're switching it on, resetting it. But you know, sometimes it's paranormal.
Yeah.
And you've got to debunk it. But then one occasion springs to mind. It was at Bow Manor Hall. We've got our REM pods out. And some guests had gone and brought their REM pods along. And their REM pods were going off continuously. They weren't very far from ours. Just thinking, I can't quite put my finger on it, but why aren't we getting similar results on them? So whether they've just been calibrated in a different way, don't know.
Yeah, I'm always like skeptical about REMs because sometimes they go off, but then sometimes they go off too much. And you think, is it the battery? And then in the end, you think, oh, shut up, spirit. If there is, you know, you're going to change the battery, or you just turn it off because it's too noisy. So, Vaughn, what do you think? Whether you've got a piece of equipment, what works better from you or your energy or something like that?
I don't know, because I'm a bit. In my mind, I know it's scientifically the same, it's all this electronics and all the rest of it, but I've got a slightly different thought to a lot of other people. What I think could get more contact, but that's just a theory of mine, shall I say. It's been worked with, but...
What is it, can you say, or...?
Not yet.
Okay. That's fine.
But it will be interesting when it comes out. It could be totally wrong. But it's just something that's bugged me for years, and I've actually got someone who's prepared to work on it.
Interesting.
Mm.
Right.
And it may be coming out as an app for a test.
Oh, okay. I see.
But
Get you.
it's just going to be trial and error like the rest of them. So
Interesting. I look forward to seeing more on that then.
The top and bottom of it, I think it's more. I think there's a lot to do with sound.
Yeah.
Sound, because it's like the way nature works with sound, and like they say about communicating with sound to different planets and all the rest of it, and they can measure things with sound. I just think, yes. Yeah, she's on board as well.
Very interesting.
It's just been a thing of mine, which I think it is more than to just do with that. So I'm a bit iffy about most equipment. One I don't like is this SLS.
Right.
I can say one I don't like.
Right, the actual SLS, yeah.
Yeah. Especially on the phone.
Oh, well, yeah, that's different. Now, there's a couple of groups who keep using this Ghost SLS, whatever. So it looked appalling. It really did. And you could see it's mapping out everything. Oh, it's just picking on one thing after another just to map out. So I downloaded it a week ago. Oh, God. Like, I had it on earlier. It, mapped the dog and it mapped the TV. Because there's a person on the TV, then it was, mapping some flowers in there. And, oh, my gosh. And people are using that as evidence.
Yep.
But the original SLS, I have seen some good results where it hasn't mapped things out, and you ask it to wave and it waves. But this app one, oh dear.
But too many people, I know a lot of teams would debunk it, and they do debunk it, because it can pick up shadows, lines on the wall. It can pick up all sorts. But I've actually had it once. I've had it once where it's picked up the, what do they call it in the pub where they pull the pints?
Yeah.
It's picked up all that, the chairs and everything, and then there's a chap stood there.
Yeah.
And there was just nothing for it to pick up. And that was the only time I can say for me that was...
Yeah. I've had mine a week, and it's just one of them, and I haven't used it on a real investigation, and neither would I, to be quite frank, because it's terrible.
I don't think it helps. I don't think it helps an investigation. I've got the Ghost Tube SLS on my phone, but I won't use it on an investigation simply because the way I see it, it's a pareidolia camera.
Yeah.
It will take anything that sees a neck and shoulders and will go, that's human. That's all it needs is a neck and shoulders. Yeah. All it needs is them points, and it will fill in the rest. It will fill in the blanks. And I proved it at the Old Nick Theatre in Gainsborough.
Awesome.
There were people using it, and they were going, oh, I've got something coming out over by this doorway. And I looked at them, and I'm right, okay. So I put mine on my phone, pointed at the doorway. Sure enough, I got the same thing. Yeah. So I turned around and said, right, now take that fire extinguisher out of the frame. As soon as they moved the fire extinguisher out the way, it disappeared. And I turned around and said, going by what you've just told me, this entire theatre is full of midget ghosts. Because those fire extinguishers are not large. They're only about 1.5 foot, 2 foot tall, if that. And yet the figures were exactly the same size. And it was because of the shoulders and the top of the fire extinguisher and the neck for the handle that the SLS pinpointed it as a human figure. And it did it with an armchair as well.
Yeah, that's it. But we all know about the ghosts and the fire extinguishers, don't we?
I was just going to say, Wayne, twins can be smaller.
Yeah. So if anyone doesn't know, there's a large team in the UK, and they somehow the national paper ended up with this photo of two twin girls down a corridor of a hotel. And it was actually two fire extinguishers. So we kind of always have a joke about this fire extinguisher thing.
I must have missed that.
It was clearly fire extinguishers.
Yeah.
It went right around the social media.
It didn't matter how much they blurred the picture either. You could tell it was a fire extinguisher.
It wasn't like the two girls. It wasn't like the two girl ghosts. No way. Hi, Susie. But yeah, it was just yeah. So
I think
somebody a couple of days later, after it went nationwide, I'm sure somebody a couple of days later went to the same hotel and took a picture of that corridor and actually put it on the internet and went, "Where are the twins? I can only see two fire extinguishers."
Oh, awesome.
And it went viral because of it.
Yeah.
I thought they'd notified the press.
But it probably did. It probably did
press.
what quite a few of the well-known people were doing, sort of come out with something and then all of a sudden come out with the excuses when they've been proved wrong.
Yeah, but sometimes it gets publicity and views and money, doesn't it? So, it comes in handy, doesn't it? Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question. I've noticed just over the past few months, there's been a big increase in the number of static pieces of equipment or using static and events against REM pods. And I'd like to know what the team's thoughts are between the two applications.
The static, the what?
Yes, there's a lot of equipment that's coming onto the market at the moment that uses static to trigger visually. You know, like how the REM pod gets triggered through that being activated. There's more static equipment is being put onto the market now.
Yeah, I've sort of been only just in the last few days seeing a few snippets of this on the old interweb, and I mean, my argument would be that the REM pod can't kind of, you know how when you test it you wave your hand near the air. Well, obviously we're electrically charged, so you could say that, you know, the air on a REM pod basically works on the static field from your own body. So yeah, very interesting things going around about that at the minute, and we'll have to wait and see what comes out equipment wise.
Yeah, that could be a new wave that's coming. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room then, the cat ball.
The cat ball.
You had to go back there.
Yeah. Well, we didn't actually find out what Mark thought about whether he's got a piece of equipment which works better for like individuals or not.
Or me.
Okay, Wayne then. Let's go for Wayne first then.
I know what Mark says.
What does Wayne think?
I think you're right. I think that, you know, I've used a ghost hunting tool app, and we had 9 other people with the same app on, and we were all in the same area. We were actually on an old Roman river going over to a place called Mersey Island, quite well known for a Roman centurion to be walking across. And while we were all standing there, all 9 applications all came out with the word sky, one after the other, literally. So everybody's all standing there, and then one at a time, everyone's phone come out with the word sky. Now, when they're all started up independently and they're running independently and with no, flight mode is on the phones, for all 9 phones to come up with the word sky, one after the other, within 30 seconds, was sort of pretty significant. But other times I've gone into locations and one person will have good results with one thing, and then another person will try it themselves and get nothing.
Back in a few seconds, guys.
Like you say, I wonder whether it's sort of like a connection between the user and spirit using that item that it's not compatible with the other person.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wonder, because I do try different things, and cat balls work for me. What can I say?
Yeah. Well, I think the same thing goes about having people in a group doing an investigation. If they haven't got the right attitude in the group, it is going to have an effect on the quality of the investigation. So I think the same thing could apply to your equipment and how you're working with it and using it and connecting with it.
Yeah, that's it. So what about you then, Mark?
Well, one of the best bits of equipment I actually use is the voice recorder on my phone. It's just an app, but there's no static white noise or anything like that on it. You just ask a load of questions up to several minutes long, and then play it back and see what replies you get. And I've had some fantastic results just using that.
That's interesting.
I got a good one at Derby Jail, just with my phone. And
Yeah.
I heard something come through. Oh, beautiful one. I heard something come through, and then Gina said that word. And it's really weird because Spirit was interacting with her, so that, you know, it came out on my phone, just, you know, on a recording. But, well, that was footage, that was video. And, you know, it just recorded, and then she said that word, which is really weird.
Wow.
But we've got Kate. I think apps use your location. I think they're coded to use location, history, and previous data to predict and spit out words that will be relevant. It's learning, it's AI. Therefore, is it really reliable machine? I think it depends on the app and who's developed it and how it works, because each app does work differently. So I think,
I agree with you on that.
If you use an app, then you need to find out from the developer how it works.
Because obviously each developer does their own programs and software, etc. And like you say, you can have two very, very similar apps, but they might work in completely different ways because it's down to the person who's wrote the programs in the first place, obviously.
Yeah.
The thing is, as well, is with an app, it will learn your locations if you're not in flight mode. If you're running on your standard mobile provider or using the Wi-Fi, then the way the program is set up would know then where you are and would be able to call upon the history. It does take a lot to build an algorithm for an app to specify what direction it wants to look in, to give out anything tangible to be used on that investigation. But also at the same time, 9 times out of 10, most teams will say to everybody, make sure your phone's on flight mode. I very rarely have my location settings on, so I know my phone can't get my location unless I've got my mobile data or Wi-Fi on. But obviously, once I start the investigation, my phone goes into flight mode.
So I'm glad somebody's mentioned. I'm glad someone's mentioned flight mode, because I've been telling people for years that yes, it does reduce your mobile phone signal, but however, it doesn't totally reduce the transmission of signals between your phone and the nearest mast, because the whole thing about flight mode is it was originally designed so it didn't interfere with onboard computing on a plane, but you can actually still receive a text message of a loved one while you're on flight mode, i.e. there's still a network. So I've always said when I used to be at events, I used to say either put it on flight mode, or if it's no problem, turn it off, because of this exact reason, you know. So it's just each to their own. But flight mode does work. It does reduce a lot of interference, but it doesn't completely rule out your phone interfering.
No, but the problem is that the phone needs a constant connection for communication on giving your location or receiving and sending files. It needs a permanent, stable connection, and flight mode doesn't enable that. It can come through, and it takes its time coming through.
I mean, I never have my location on, ever. I just don't, because obviously your phones are constantly listening. But again, I would sort of come back with a counter argument on that, because it is allowed. So in case you're in an accident or for any reason, it is actually pinging out for us. It pings out a signal. I think it's every 30 or 40 seconds to look for the nearest mast. So it is sort of constantly searching, so it is actually sending out an active, but it's just weaker. Basically, it's at a lower.
There is something there because you can still call emergency services.
Yeah,
and they can contact you, and they can
So-
tell you where they are. Where you are.
but
I think
obviously,
that is a fail-safe algorithm, though.
yeah, and obviously, it's nice that we all know about this and we do explain this to people. I mean, not everybody does, but I always used to explain it to events that, you know, even though you're on flight mode, try not to keep your phone, like, don't put it on the table next to said gadget, you know.
That's right.
Keep your mobile phone away from the K2.
Put it in your pocket so it expands and starts going mad.
Yeah, Robbie's got a point. A tablet with no internet, the best way to use that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a phone without SIM card in it. So
there's no fooling that. You're definitely not going to get any network interference with no SIM card in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But
A couple of months back, I used my phone in an investigation and an experiment. So we were downstairs. Another couple went upstairs. They had their phone. I rang it. They left their phone up there. Did all that. And I got really excited. Everyone was gathered around the phone, and we kept hearing just the odd noise coming back. You just couldn't quite get hold of it. Anyway, another person was recording it all the way through. They went back, got the phones, listened back to it, and it was feedback from me speaking.
Oh no!
Yeah, I've never been a fan of this phone in another room situation. I've just never ever found it of any use whatsoever, like you say, because of either feedback or because they're trying to find Wi-Fi. I've just never been a fan of this. Oh, put a phone in one room, call it from another. I just, but that's me personally. I just don't see what that would or does achieve. But that's just me.
The first one of those was with Viv Powell at Codner Castle. That was the first time we ever heard of that. And that worked, and I think evidence went out of that one. And I actually was on an event and we did it with a phone at Codner Castle. And we were getting intelligent responses as well. So I did it at Matlock Pavilion, and I did get a lot of feedback. But I think if you do that, you've got to also get a video. I think you've got to video it as well, so that if you are getting a response, then you play the tape back and see, like, if there's a car gone by, and you've got a bit of noise pareidolia going on.
Yeah, I mean, what I've always come up with another idea, and I don't know if any of you guys have done it, but what I've done before and suggest before, instead of the mobile phone thing, use just your basic, your basic PMR radios and have the Vox turned on them, so they automatically key the microphone if they get a loud enough voice or noise, and that can be more interesting. And obviously, it's not mobile phone; it's 433 megahertz. It starts at, I think, so that can be interesting because it's not a mobile phone network; it's just literally handheld radios. I don't know what your opinions are on that, guys, or if you've ever tried it. If not, I can suggest it's a good idea.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah.
So that's walkie-talkie to walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, because most of them, even cheap ones, like 20-25 quid for a pair, they have a system on them called VOX. It's basically voice operated. I don't know the full terminology, but basically, if they pick up a loud enough voice talking into the microphone in that room, it will automatically send the voice, transmit it to the other handset, and you can link up to. I don't think there's a limit nowadays. So long as you're on the same channel, you can link 6, 8, 10. So it can be interesting, and it's different to a mobile phone.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. You've also got to be careful with walkie-talkies, though, because they do set off REM pods.
Yeah. Well,
set off a lot.
I mean, this is the whole thing. Again, we could start another conversation. Again, you've probably all experienced this at events because obviously paying public and stuff, they love the gadgets. They're all about the gadgets, the flashing light stuff. But my gripe is I always try and tell people, don't suddenly put 5 things on a table or in the middle of a room floor, because they can all interact with each other because they're all giving off, RF frequencies and electronic, you know what I mean? So I get what you're saying about that.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, we're going to start with Mark on this one. So I think let Mark have a word. We've got a great question here from Kate. Okay, so how do we feel about devices like Ovilus and Alice Box as opposed to apps? Is it just preset word banks and random words? You had any success with those, or what do you think, Mark?
In the past, I've had some. I had some positive results using both those apps. But yeah, as you said, there are some preset words built into it. But there was one location we were just asking random questions, and we were just getting various results back, which were confirmed by a member of staff that was with us. So yeah, that's right, or that's right. So there is something in it, but I could also see the other side of the fence, if that makes sense, about the word data bank built into the app as well.
I think there is a
argument.
team which does use the Alice box, and apparently you can add words in it. And they've been accused of like adding words when they're in certain locations, which then obviously helps the words come out, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm not mentioning names, but quite a few will know about that one. Yeah. So Wayne, what do you think then?
It's difficult because it, again, like I said earlier, it's what you make of it with what comes out as evidence. You know, Oculus is a series of, I think, was it 30,000 pre-programmed words? So you have got to find a link with what the Oculus has come out with and the location you're in and its history. So again, it all boils down to whether you've got a historian with you that knows all the history of the place, or you're prepared to sit there for ages looking at the research and finding what words connect with what you were doing at that particular time and in that particular part of the building. I've had brilliant results with an Alice box up at Dunwich. We were in an old, I think it was a chapel from the old leper hospital that used to be there. And we got this little girl called Charlotte had come through wanting her mum. Only it was her mum that dumped her there in the first place. And she tried to attach herself to my partner. And we said, unfortunately, your mother is still coming, but she's not here. And we then ended up eventually wounding down. But through the Alice box, that gave us a brief description of when this Charlotte girl was around.
Wow.
And it took about 4 days to actually find out that Charlotte was one of the last patients that was in that particular area at the time.
Gosh.
But what then freaked us out was as we were walking back towards the beach at Dunwich from the church, there was myself, my director Sam, and my partner Ellen walking along the road. A couple of other team members were further in front of us. And as we're walking along the road, we hear these little footsteps coming up behind us. Bearing in mind, this is like midnight. The whole place is in total darkness apart from our torches. And we hear these little footsteps come running up behind us. And as we turned around, there's no one there, but these little footsteps, wet footsteps in the road leading right up behind us.
Oh.
When we went back half an hour later, those footsteps completely disappeared. They dried up. But it was we reckoned it was because this Charlotte lass wanted to come home with us. But again, it's how you look at the evidence that comes through on these apps, and whether you've got the time or prepared to spend the time to do the research to see whether there's a connection. But by then it's too late, because if you're doing a public event and those things come through, you've then got the hassle of telling all your guests, well, actually, while we were doing this part on the Alice box or the Oculus, we got this come through, and that was correct. It was. There is a lot of cover work you've got to do afterwards.
Yeah, Mitch actually does that with her team. So if you go on one of Mitch's events, like if you get anything through, then Mitch, and you did have a historian before as well, didn't you?
That's
Who'd
right,
go through trying to get information so that by the end of the investigation, well, the public event, sort of say, actually, we got this name and we can confirm, which is brilliant.
That's right, Well, like I say, it is just hard work, and sometimes you just need access to university files and research documentation, and it's huge. It's huge. It's so much easier when you get the spirits just coming through and just giving you all the information. So nice
That's
and
why I
simple.
like mediumship.
Headlines.
That's why I like mediumship, because it's hard work going, getting something to flash for you, yes, or if they're not lying as well. So, yeah, you get that as well. So, Von, what do you think about the Alice box type of Alice with the random word generators?
I've never used what did you call it? The Oculus. Did Wayne call it? Ovulus. Yeah, I've never used that. Yeah. But the Alice box, I've used it, and it's knowing whether that information's correct and looking it up afterwards. If I was going out with a organised event, I would look up the history first so that you can feed it back. Yeah. But the Alice box with other people, I think they seem to get some good results with that.
Yeah.
So I'd say out of all of them, so I think the Alice box is probably one of the ones that seem more genuine. Again, it's how you're working with it, and if it's coming out with what's relevant to that situation at that time.
That's right. You have to look at it, don't you? You have to look at what's coming out. And you work out the probability of that word, is it relevant, and then that one. So
the thing is, like you said about mediums, a medium can say something. I'm not saying it isn't true.
Yeah, this is it. You want it validating and backing up.
Yeah. But the thing is, when they say so many words, people can say, oh, that's me. You know what it's like, where it's relevant to that person. Where when you're there in that situation and you've got a medium, and if that's relevant, if they've not looked up the history, do you know what I mean? It's what works for you at that time and what's relevant. So YouTube will be like, oh my God, demon child.
It's a demon.
In answer to what Kate just said there, it was quite frightening, really, because obviously we thought it was a local. As we're going along with these really bright LED torches in the middle of the night, going from the church back to the car park, and you hear these footsteps coming up behind you, you think it's a local coming up to complain that we've been wandering around the churchyard. Of course, we've all turned round worried, and of course it turned out to be nothing as such. Or was it something?
I've just seen the comment about the Echo box.
Yeah.
You guys use Echo box?
No. I've not used it. Has anyone?
No, I think I might have tried it briefly.
Yeah, I think I have, but it was someone else who actually owned it. It was when I was in their team. The owner, he used to use it.
It's about £23 to download the actual app.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And one of our team has been playing around with it, and you have to put a lot of time in just to try and fiddle with it to get it to where you want it to be. It's still a work in progress.
Oh, them sort of things are so frustrating, though, aren't they? The ones that take a lot of time and prep to set up and program. You're thinking, oh, bother. You lose your track of thought, don't you? Because you've spent half an hour before anyone comes just trying to set up one piece of equipment. It's like, no, don't like that. Not using it anymore. Not worth it.
Yeah, that's cool. Robbie's got a great statement about skeptic about most who claim to be a medium. They just say basic things that most in the room can claim is theirs. And when I first started development about 8-9 years ago, I stood at the front of a room, said I didn't believe in mediumship, and anyone can stand at the front of a room, go, oh, I've got a John and there's a blue shirt or a light blue, and that would affect quite a few people, wouldn't it? So, but it's getting specific things through, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
which not everyone else in the room can actually take.
No, I mean, myself as a psychic medium, whenever I've done events in the past, going back to, I think it was something basically like what Vonnie mentioned about proof and stuff like that. Whenever I've done mediumship and stuff in an event or in a room with customers or with friends, I always make sure that somebody's recording it, either video or audio, because sometimes I do channel and I do go into trance and I will have no recollection or memory of what I've brought through. And I sort of find that strange that I have no recollection when I do a bit of channeling or stuff like that. But it's nice if someone records, like say, because then I can say what did I say, what was, and it's sort of a backup, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I've come out with information, like if at an event someone's doing human pendulum or the board or something like that, I might get information through, and Michelle's seen me, seen it happen, and then they're validating it. But then what I'll do is throw in something false.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all this information, and it's going yeah. So I will deliberately say something false to test the person out who's using the dowsing rods, and it is coming out false. And because it's all very well someone using dowsing rods and but is it right? And I did that at the castle, Leicester Castle. So I'd actually picked up on something, and can't remember now. I picked up on a character, and I seen they were I think they're in prison for stealing a pig or something. That was it. You get random information like that. They're in court for that. And I just came out with just something which I knew was just so, was not related. And it came out and it's like, I was happy with that. So, I always throw in something false just to test me and to get better validation, really. Because you're getting it, but you can't really get validation of someone going to prison for stealing a pig, can you? Where's that valid? You're not going to get it.
I think as well as what you try to do is regardless of whether it's mediumship or whether it's a piece of equipment, you're always trying to look at a way of trying to catch it out. And I do it all the time with Ouija boards, and I can remember one specific time. With a certain TV team down in Preston Manor in Brighton. And I had been forewarned of a couple that had been to a lot of events in the south, and they kept channeling through the lad's Uncle Steve. And it happened at about 6 locations in the south with this particular company. And I was forewarned, and Mr. Beatty had told me that under no circumstances were you to let them get away with it this time. So I'm like, okay. They started on the Ouija board, they took over, and all of a sudden it was, is that Uncle Steve? We've got a strong Bristol accent. Is that Uncle Steve? And it was yes. And I'm looking at the fingers, and I noticed his girlfriend's fingers had gone, the knuckles had gone white right before her fingertips. So I knew she was pressing down. But then after a while, her finger went back to normal and his finger went white. So I then turned around and said, right now, one at a time, when the planchette starts moving, one at a time, take your finger off and put it back on again. And the second it got round to this lad, he took his finger off, the planchette stopped just like that.
Yeah.
That's what I class as a tag team.
Yeah. And they've been doing it. They've been doing it at all these other locations in the south. And basically anybody that was with them around the table at the time were all amazed by the results that they were getting on the Ouija board.
God.
Me, I can't stand fakery. That's another reason why I left that certain.
I can't.
I can't. It's a waste of time. Please.
So, of course, if I see somebody doing that, I'll call them out. I'm quite happy to call them out because I don't want fakery being sort of associated with me.
No, I mean, the problem is as well, people do that, and that's why people like us in the field have these issues and problems with, people slandering us and giving bad feedback at events, stuff like that, because they're just so used to these fakes. And, it's like a lot of it, thankfully, was brought to the public's attention. We've got a lot to thank for Most Haunted, but also on the other side, if you like, the other flip of the coin, not so much to thank them for, because you do get a lot of people go to regular events. You get these people, I've known them travel from one end of the country to another just to go and stir trouble at events and come out with the same stuff like you say. So that's why we've got this stigma around ourselves in the business.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It's another reason why I left them.
Oh, bless you. I had a really weird experience with a Ouija board, and generally on public events, I will keep away from boards. And as about a month or so, 1 to 2 months ago, I was actually put in a corner because at this event, a public event, I had a choice of table tipping or Ouija, and I don't want to do either. You know, why do I want to take part with random strangers who potentially will push things?
Yeah.
So one lot was doing table tipping, so I thought, oh, what do you do? So there's a lady and a daughter on the Ouija board, and the bloke organising the board sort of said, you know, don't be scared of it. I said, I'm not scared. And he backed me in a corner. I basically said, you know, people push things and I don't want to do it with people I don't know, and I said it in front of them. But in the end, I did it. Their damn family came through. But I was picking up mediumship. So, like, I was getting stuff. Yeah. The guy running the thing was getting stuff. Yeah. It's just like all the time. The board just went to all the time. So, yeah. Maybe they got something out of it, but I certainly didn't.
I must admit, I do enjoy table tipping and trying to catch people out that are doing that. While we were filming the other Saturday, we actually got prevented 3 times from actually doing table tipping.
Oh,
Something in the location didn't want us to do table tipping, and we got a motion sensor in another room that was far away from where we were, but we could see when the light came on, and it had an 8-foot range, which was a smaller range than the actual room itself. The room was about 20 foot square, and we were just about to start table tipping, and just as we were asking the question, the light went off. So we went in to investigate how that light had gone off, and we discovered you had to physically be in that room for the light to go off.
wow.
Came back, sat down, went to ask the same question again to get the table started tipping, and we got slight wobbly movement and the light came back on again. So, right, we ignored it, and then we just said, right, this time we would like you to move the table for us, please. We don't want you to stop us. And then with that, we heard this almighty bang. We're like, what on earth? So our director's husband and his friend, they went off to check the owner, see if she had fallen off her office chair or something. And we could hear her go, no, I thought that was coming from you guys.
Oh, wow.
He was like, well, no. And it turned out the sound was coming from above her office, which was loaded full of shelves. But there's nothing on the shelves. It's literally empty. And we're like, okay. And we've got that on camera.
Wow.
And we were just thinking, something's trying to stop us from table tipping.
That's
But
brilliant.
when we finally did get the table going, there was quite a bit of movement. But then I had to do the same as what I do with Ouija boards. I'm like, you're going to have to come away from the table so that we can definitely say it's not you doing it, it's not you doing it, it's not me doing it, and so on. And you have to do that, because if you don't try and debunk it, you're always going to go down the road of, oh, it's paranormal, and you'll literally label it paranormal all the time.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm a big fan of table tipping, me personally, just because I've done it quite a lot over the years and had paying customers do it. And my thing was never have any staff touching the table except just to start the session, maybe. And just a quick note of 2 major events with table tipping that I've had so far. One was a Victorian school in the Peak District where, again, only the customers had their fingers on the top. There was no hands underneath or on the legs, and it physically climbed up 2 little steps into the next room, did a bit of dancing, and then it physically came back down these 2 little steps. They weren't massive, probably about 3 or 4 inch steps each, and that just absolutely blew me away, to be quite honest. And The other time was in good old Moira Furnace in Leicestershire, and again started the session. Then I ensured that only the customers were the ones with the fingers on the table, and you could see the only other thing. And basically, it went. The room there downstairs is like almost like sort of a horseshoe shape, and it went so fast, vibrating, dancing down the room, went round the end of the building into the next section. Then it just stopped, and then all of a sudden it started moving by itself and moved about 3 foot with no one, customers or myself or anyone near it. So you can take from that what you will, but I'm a big believer in spirits do like physically moving furniture, even if it's to interact with you or just to try and scare you.
Yeah, you can get good interaction, like at the there's a question Kate's trying to ask about mediumship. So yeah, please ask. Can I ask a random and difficult question to the mediums? Please go for it. I do development. I don't exactly say I'm a medium. I do communicate, but Von's good. Ant's good. Mark's good. But yeah, just go for it. That's cool.
You're better than you give yourself credit for, Jackie.
Well, I've just been doing readings now, but hey, we don't mention that, do we? No, we don't. But yeah, it's a label that so many people call themselves. It kind of, I don't call it.
Yes, yeah, we know somebody from past experience that used to call themselves that, don't we? But they were actually just dangerous.
Yeah, no, you can get dangerous with it, can't you? As well, that's the problem. Yeah. Yeah. So, that's it. So, yeah, Kate, come on. So we're at the Victorian School, one in Long Eaton.
Brilliant place.
The Haunted Happenings one. So basically, we went down this corridor, and it seemed like the first bit, the corridor, the table was being pushed like it was being used as a Zimmer frame. All of a sudden, something else came along, and it's being shoved like crazy. And to get the different energy on it, that was amazing. Don't know if you were on that one. It's the one where Andy from Infrareddy had given them a police car.
Oh, that little police car. Yes, that was a
police car. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you remember that night, Jackie, right at that end room, I don't know what it's called.
I met Ben and Louisa that night for the first time.
Yeah. Well, that night was when I ended up under the table and I was interacting with the two child spirits because, as you know, from past experience, Jackie can confirm I've always done quite well connecting with child spirits more than anything else. And I had laughs and giggles that evening that Jackie's on about with a girl and a boy under the table in the far room.
And Ben and Louisa Ben got his boys through, not realising quite what his boys were.
Yeah.
Like they swore a lot, basically. Yeah, this is it. There's so many like conning people, and it is mad, isn't it? And where they're sending the same messages to people, so, and it's just disgusting. Yeah, that was it. First time you met Ben and Louisa, but that was them boys. I was really sad for Ben.
Hi, Lou.
I thought his mates were with him and they died and stuff, but actually, they were so different, weren't they?
Yeah.
They weren't quite what we thought they were. I guess loosely, it's kind of like spirit guides, aren't they? But from a different realm.
Well, I've worked with Ben a few times in the past, and we've worked together at a few events and worked well together. And obviously, it goes without saying how much I rate Ben and Lou, and I know, obviously, I'm used to how Ben works, and hopefully he thinks I'm kind of okay in the field, kind of thing, because I do highly respect Ben and Lou as a couple when working with them.
Oh, cat's growling. I wonder why. Too many dogs on here.
She's calling us dogs now.
I've had mine on. Van's had hers on. Mitch's had hers on. Get Mark's cat on in a minute, won't we?
She's upstairs.
Have you got to go, Wayne?
No, I'm just
Fine,
I've
because
got weird
I thought
things
you had
going
a
on
show.
by my feet. One of my cats is being
Oh,
a pain in the bum.
You've got the cat, okay.
I've got 4 of them, and they're all a pain in the bum.
Bless you. Yeah, they're brilliant.
Yeah.
Right, we've got this question then. So from
Right,
Kate. So science says that mediums' brains work differently. Personally, I have the feeling that mediums are able to read people through waves telepathically, therefore see their memories, feelings, etc. clear as day. Same with the buildings. They pick up on these things and memories. Therefore, is it really spirits in the afterlife, or is it what's been before and time travelling through energy and memories?
Good question.
Wow.
Good
Interesting.
question. I can answer that one.
I'm
Part
glad
of
you
it.
can. Go on then.
Part of it.
I'll leave that up actually. But then it hides you, Von.
Good. Right. Kate, I actually agree with you with, I'd say, half of that, because I actually had exactly what you've described there, because the way I pick things up, it's in my dreams. Not all the time. Obviously, I can feel, I'm an empath and I can pick up and see pictures and things. But for years, I used to have this dream about this young girl on this balcony, and I always used to have the number 40 in this dream. And I never understood it, and I used to think, oh, it's all to do with my past, whatever. And then it came true. And I was 40 years old on my 40th birthday, and I flew for the first time. And in the hotel across from where I was the young girl dancing on the balcony with the grandparents.
Wow.
And I'd had that dream for years, a recurring dream. So to a point, I do agree with that. I do think it can be a bit of both. And I've had premonitions as well.
I totally agree with you on that one, because anybody who's known me long enough, but my wife is first and foremost to point out to everyone that I can meet someone and within seconds or a minute or two, I can tell if, pardon the expression, they're a bad egg or not, if they're going to be good to you, bad to you. Yeah. And so, in regards to what Kate's saying, I think that's just my natural ability to read that person's persona, their, and it is always a gut feeling, the expression gut feeling. And I've pretty much 99% of the time I've been proved right. Even if it takes somebody to be horrible to that friend 2 years later, 2 days later, or 10 years, they always end up doing something. And I'm just like, you don't get gratification from it, but they'll say, oh, Anne, you was right. You said not to trust them and it took me too long. So I totally agree with where she's going with that thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the likes of the CIA. That's why the likes of the CIA. Nothing my end. But yeah, I think that's the reason why the likes of the CIA and the Russians were using mediums and empaths to try and figure out these things, see how their brains work, and if they work differently to the normal brain. And that's why they were using them, pump them full of drugs and see if they can enhance their abilities.
Yeah.
Nothing normal about my brain anyway.
I personally think they're still doing it.
I think there's kind of time travel involved, though, because, we kind of say that we're connecting to people's loved ones. You get in images. You see, I get an image and I see in my mind's eye. So I pick up like a person, I pick up the surroundings, I'll pick up sort of the features, things like that. And then, I'll just get images like earlier on, I got an image of a wood and I actually got a temple as well. And that's the imagery I got for some readings I've just done. And yeah, the person took it because, whatever reason.
I think there is an element of time traveling, because you kind of knocked the nail on the head with that thought, Jackie, because obviously if spirits come through to us and communicate to us to pass on to loved ones message and stuff, they can't physically bring their past with them, i.e. the building they were working at or the fields they worked in as a farmer, say, for example. We've got to go back in time to see that. You know what I mean? So you are sort of almost going back to their time and seeing their surroundings. So, crazy as it sounds, it's not that far-fetched that you probably are travelling back in time.
Basically, a third person, what do you call it? Past life regression.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, gosh.
You're looking at
that's
a
one of them,
third
I
person,
probably.
looking in on that person's maybe a previous life or someone that's coming through's previous life.
Yeah.
It's a third person's past life regression experience.
Yeah, but you've got the psychic mediums. Like I went to Barry John. I got a reading. He did know me, fair enough. But the reading he got, he was bringing my family through, and he was very specific. But he also told me that something was going to happen in the future. Now he said I was going to. He knew that I'd lost my dog. He was there for me and supported me through that. But he said I was going to get a dog. And I said, "You're talking rubbish, mate. No way on earth am I going to get a dog. I work 9 till 5 in the office. I had to go in the office every day." Okay, the year was 2020 when I had this reading. We didn't know COVID was going to happen. And I ended up with this dog, So it's like my mum and dad, like, my mum, who it came from, she must have travelled to the future to then tell Barry that was going to get a dog. So I think your relatives can go to the future because psychic mediums do come out with stuff about what's going to happen in the future. And when it's specific as well. How?
I think so. I've had warnings for myself of things that could be happening, so telling me to hold back and be cautious for some reason.
Yeah, that's it. And you get a sixth sense about things, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I get this. Like, yeah, I do that. I touch old buildings to get imagery. There's a tree in the local woods, and I touched it. I was hugging the tree, but like basically see what I could get from it. And I saw like what it used to look like before, you know what I mean? Before it was as it was. It's great when you can touch things and actually get energy from it.
Yeah, totally agree with you, Jackie, on that. It's like a form of psychometry. I've been known at events and stuff to be able to touch the inner walls of a building or the outer walls or a seat and get sort of flashes and images and tell its history just from, again, the building itself, the stones. It is fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know how we start off on equipment and start talking about mediumship, but that's the thing. That's what we do, though, isn't it?
I think Mark should introduce this new piece of equipment.
So, Mark,
What's that?
I think you should talk to us about your new piece of equipment that's going to be the new craze.
My new piece of equipment?
Yeah.
Pray tell.
You had the operation then, Mark.
He put it on his group the other day.
Come on, Mark, show us your equipment.
Have you forgotten that? Have you forgotten
I wasn't
already, Mark?
what it was. No,
that shape, that size.
that little thing.
Now she's on about the size of his box.
I'm interested.
It's forgotten.
Does it light up?
I'm interested.
Matches and buzz. Sorry.
I bet it was someone's equipment I was using on location. I don't think it was mine.
No, Mark.
But I honestly can't remember what it was.
That you set up, that you put up on your page. I'm leaving you to look back at that now.
I'm wondering.
I can't remember. Fisher Price.
I honestly can't remember. It probably wasn't even mine.
Oh, he's probably shared it.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah. It's one of the memes you share. Yeah.
It's me age.
Toy thing. Yeah. That
You're
was
a
it.
young one, yeah. Talking equipment, I just finished building emotions.
Yeah, Robbie has started doing equipment, and it's a lot cheaper than a lot of places. So yeah. Robbie also did my past life regression, and
music.
I need to sort that out.
I thought you'd sorted that out.
No, we need to totally resolve it. Okay, so I've got this kind of past life, and I've still got links with it, and I was having a chat, and one day somebody picked up that I'd already got links to Nottingham from 1200s, and Patricia and Ferrara, don't know if she was watching, but she's basically picked up that I was hung at the Galleries of Justice in Nottingham. So then I went to Robbie, had a past life regression, and I got to a stage where I was in court in front of the judge waiting for the decision, and I just bottled it and pulled myself out of it because I didn't want the okay, what got me about this past life, because I've had a lot of interaction with this guy who's a judge, and you know him, John.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, him. I don't know if on a past life regression, this is really crazy now, you're actually reliving it, and they're there doing it and getting satisfaction again.
Yeah.
So are you basically going back to their time period?
Well,
and then get satisfaction of, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Sometimes people going through past life regression and things like that, it can be like reliving it, even though they never knew it happened, if that makes sense. And some people find it very hard, traumatizing, etc. But that's why, obviously, as you did, you only go to the correct people, and you know, it's something you have to be very careful about doing past life regression. I've always said it. You really have to want it and need it to justify doing it, because it's not always going to be the results you want. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, I'll see who I was related to and stuff. They don't think of death and stuff.
We've got some thing in the background.
I can hear it. Sounds like that.
So I've got a radio, Wayne.
No, my son's just creeped into the kitchen. But
I've got nothing here. It's like almost an underwater noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like one of us is underwater.
Don't know what's going on. There's some sort of thing going on.
Can I ask, can any of the viewers hear it as well, or is it just us? Anybody else watching can hear this weird noise we're getting at all?
And it's the echo of your voice. Oh no.
It does sound like it's an echo from somebody else's microphone, because when there's talking, you hear it, and then all of it, and then literally split second after we finish talking, it stops as well.
Yeah, you're right. Every time someone speaks, I can even hear it when I'm speaking. So it's probably just the streaming service. So I don't think we can do anything about it, because every time one of you speaks, I'm getting it, and I'm even getting it now while I speak.
Yeah.
Okay. So Brian J. Kano came to the UK, and we went to Derby Jail, and I was mentioning the story of this John at Derby Jail, and somebody I can't do a browser refresh because it'd just kill it. But yeah, it could be. But I was just telling Viv and Dan about my interaction with the judge in Nottingham, and it's like I was nearly strangled within the grounds of Derby Jail. So then we went to the Galleries of Justice, which is where this judge is, who I think I have links to somehow. And we went in one of for a start, I sat in his chair, and Gary Fields was picking up on what was going on remotely, and he put on Facebook he's cheesed off now, just after I'd sat in his chair, obviously without knowing that I'd sat in the chair. And then I went into a room where basically all the women sort of, it's where all the pregnant women went who were prisoners. So I went in there, and then something like jumped me, overshadowed me. So we tried to like shake it off, didn't we? And then like a drunk person, I walked all the way from that room into the main room, and yeah, I think Joanne saw me there, with like black eyes and not being me. But, yeah,
Wow.
because this judge actually jumped me in that room, and I've actually got an insight more into what that judge did as well. So I know even more how nasty he is. So, but I'm yet to find out what his issue is with me. So I'm working on it.
It's obviously a common spirit around Derby Jail then, because when I very first ever met our dear friend Patricia, that was 17, 18 years ago, and I was in the debtor cell, not the condemned, the debtor cell, and I was getting attacked and strangled to the point I was almost blacking out, and I dropped to my knees and I had to be helped out of the room.
I think whenever I talk about this spirit who John, I think he sort of sometimes comes around me, and yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because there's something going on and I need to end it somehow.
Well,
But,
at the end of the day, we've worked on quite a lot of locations and events together in the past, and I know he's made a fair few appearances, you know,
yeah,
so
definitely. But yeah, and I think the way it seems that I was actually hung in Nottingham in 1868. We know his name, and we just got to find him in the historical records around that time. But yeah, it's very intriguing. But yeah, Eric said to come back hundreds of times. But yeah, has anyone got any? I don't know what the weird noise is. It's just annoying.
I wouldn't worry about it. It's annoying, yes, but it's not interfering, so we'll just have to put up with it.
Yeah, everyone can hear it. Sounds like reverb, but you know, where's it come from? We don't know. But my way of you hear, see, taste, touch, and smell your surroundings. Reliving from childhood till death, remembering life gone long by. And Robbie actually picks up where it's ending as well. So Robbie kind of knew that it was due to end, that I was actually near the end of my life. So that was amazing.
The one I had, I went through two where you actually pass over.
Oh wow!
When I had mine, it was quite nice.
None of mine were nice.
I've
had two and they weren't nice.
Mine were
yeah, Robbie. It could be. Yeah. It seems to be feeding back from all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't know why it's just come on.
Well, we can cope. It's only in the background. It's not too bad, thankfully.
Yeah, we haven't got long left anyway, so it's been interesting. So yeah. Yeah, Tracy wants to do past life as well, and so
yeah,
Robbie is brilliant. So,
can I ask everybody here, all my fellow participants, just me asking the question out there? It's what a lot of people get asked, but I'm going to ask you guys while we're on here anyway. Starting obviously with Jackie, which I know, but not everyone else knows. But when did you have your first paranormal experience? Just briefly, how old you were and where it was, Jackie.
Well, I'm trying to write my book at the moment, and I think my first paranormal experience, I actually ignored it. So I always say it's Matlock Pavilion, but when I was like a teenager, I went. You finish. You got your boyfriend, and at night you just walk around the streets because there's not a lot to do. Because you sort of go to your parents' house or you just walk around. And I went to the village, and there was a field, and then we walked into the woods and stuff. But as we walked back, I was just drawn to this house, and I felt like this little girl was looking at me. Now, the house was bulldozed before I was born. I could see now an image of a metal fence and this girl like calling at me, and I was just like standing in the field, just staring at this house, not even there. And yeah, and now you realise that this can happen, but then it was just like weird, and just like I didn't let my boyfriend know because just think you're crazy, wouldn't they? So yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess that
well-
was my first. Yeah, and then I lived in a pub which had things happen.
Yeah.
2006. So yeah.
I can say exactly when mine was. I was 9 years old, and Jackie may remember this, but for those people that know of it or not, I grew up in a small village that was part of the Harper Crew estate. So as a child growing up, my playground was the wonderful Cork Abbey House and all its buildings,
That was
all its
beautiful.
tunnels. All the tunnels. So at 9 years old, I had my first paranormal experience at 9 years old in one of the tunnels, and it's just stayed with me ever since. And I've obviously had a fascination and stuff. And the village is a little village called Titnall. It's pre-doomsday. It's seriously active. I've been saying I'll take Jackie a walk around one day. Some of my old childhood literally haunts.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever get a chance to walk in the tunnels, actually under the house at Cork Abbey, or even in the parkland itself, or even around
been.
Ticknall.
Near Lime.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been there with Phil.
yeah, yeah. I can
Interesting.
take you to some places that you'll never find without me, if that makes sense. But
Yeah.
so since I was 9, so
Yeah. It's
all I
cool.
will say is over 4 decades. That's all I'm going to say on that. So over to you guys.
Mitch.
Do you know what? I don't know whether most of my early experiences were in my imagination, and it wasn't until I was probably working in the museums that I started to see some really unusual things. So I think I've had them, discounted them, and then I said in museums, and that was just
Sorry. Dog alert.
Yeah.
Twigs, come on, 2 paws.
Fun.
Brilliant.
Look at it.
What about you?
I used to see things come round the bedroom doors on a night.
Oh, wow.
But I always used to, I suppose I thought it was in my mind, but my parents used to tell me I was stupid. So I ignored all that. And then as I got older, I lived with my sister, and I saw the same thing at her house as well. They just put their hands around the doors.
Oh, wow.
Again, stupid. And then when I got married, and I had my first son, I put him to bed one night, and that's when I first saw the first apparition. But we knew there was something going on in the house for about 2 years. Before then, that we used to just joke about with until he decided to step forward. But I did find out the history of him, found out who he was, and I was quite sad that we'd got him crossed over, really. But I have seen my gran in my living room and my gran at her house as well.
Cool.
Oh, precious. Wayne, what about you?
I was 6 years old in this very house.
Oh, wow.
Basically, my granddad was killed down the local shipyards. It must have been about 3 months after he passed. But I was swearing blind that he was coming into my bedroom and sitting at the end of my bed, and he would sit there for half hour or so, and then I could always tell it was him because I've inherited my granddad's nose, and he also had big ears, and his silhouette, I could tell straight away that it was him. And I kept saying, he's coming to visit. And this went on every night for about 6 months. And everybody said I was completely crazy. And it got to a stage where they reckon I was going to have to go to a child psychologist and all sorts of weird psychiatric.
Yeah, I can empathise with that.
And my mum was good at shorthand. And one night she actually sat outside my bedroom door and she wrote down the conversation I was having, because apparently I was talking to him.
Oh, bless you.
And when she passed it on to the doctor, they turned around and said, the problem is children do have imaginary friends, or as we would like to say now, are they imaginary friends? Because we know children are more open-minded. So they were like, well, the problem is if it's an imaginary friend or it's just a child coming out with a dream, it's hardly going to be a complete conversation. Usually it's a question, an answer, and then a question that's completely unrelated to the previous one. It's because in the dream scope of things, we have about 1,000 dreams per night because our mind is the only thing that's really going still. And yet this conversation was going on for ages, and it would be like I would be answering a question that's been asked on whether I had a nice day at school or what did I do at school. I would then reply, and then the question would come back that would give me a reply to that in relation to what I did at school. And this conversation would go on for ages and ages. And I'd be like, I don't remember none of that. And my mum said, you were having a conversation. I've got it here on paper. And it always ended, night, Granddad, love you. And that went on for 6 months.
That with my granddad.
And then it stopped. And I think it was because he knew that at the time there was a lot of turmoil in the family with my mum and my real dad divorcing. Obviously with my granddad's passing. And I was close to my granddad. I was so close to him more than any other member of my family. And he taught me how to read before I even went to school. So I was close to him, and it really did hit me hard when he was killed. And so, of course, they say, "Oh, could it just have been your imagination? You miss him that much that you've dreamt him appearing." But then it gets poo-pooed straight away by the conversations I was having, and each night it'd be something completely different. You know, and it would be like, how's your nan doing? Is your nan coping all right? And I'd be like, yeah, she's fine. She's getting there. She's all right. How about your mum? Yeah, she's fine. No mention of my real dad whatsoever. But it was every other member of the family. Wow. And then after 6 months, it just stopped. But ever since then, I've always been able to tell whether there's something in a property. Something's always alerted me that there's something there, and I've been able to keep a hold of that ever since, and that's 42 years now.
That's amazing. And what about you then, Mark? We're just running to the end. We've got to finish about 10. So, Mark.
Okay, I'll keep it short and sweet.
No, it doesn't have to be too short.
The only one I can actually vividly remember, I was probably in my 30s, and I was just laying there in bed. It was early one morning. I was awake because I remember looking at the clock. It was about 2, maybe 3 a.m. And I distinctly heard this woman's voice just saying hello, and it was really, really clear. I turned to look at my now ex-wife. She was actually asleep. And the thing is, I had been reading this book on how to contact your spirit guides, and I had been doing some exercises from that book, including meditations. So whether it was one of my guides coming forward to say hello, the thing was, it was very sudden, and it actually frightened me, and I asked for a timeout. But I regretted that. I'm slowly starting to up my guides again, especially when I go out on location. So, yeah, that's the only one I can vividly remember, the earliest one, which was amazing.
So what actually got you into it then, Mark? Was you just interested, or?
I've always been very spiritual, especially since I lost my grandfather. And I just wanted to know if there was actually more to just this life, to this existence. Is there anything else out there? And that's another reason I've actually come into the paranormal as well. I wanted to find out if there is an afterlife. And slowly but surely, I'm seeing things happen at a location. Some of it's debunked, yeah, absolutely. But some of it, I'm still unexplained about. Did I see that happen, or did I hear that? You know, we couldn't find the cause of it. So, yeah, it's just really piqued my interest. Just hearing that clear voice straight into my ear was just amazing.
Always good to ask questions. Always to constantly ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
and I've still got the book now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Which book is it?
It's just simply called How to Contact Your Spirit Guides.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the author. It's actually upstairs underneath the bed
Oh,
in
that's cool.
in a plastic container. But yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. But I want to thank everybody who's watched, commented. Thank you so much. I hope you found it interesting, but thank you, everyone. Thanks for sharing and everything. Special thank you to everyone on the panel. To Ant, Mitch, Fawn, Wayne and Mark.
Nice.
Can I just add for anybody that was tuning in and watching us, the reason why my background doesn't look as nice and tidy as everybody else is because having kids and stuff and lots of pets, the only place I can hide is in the bedroom. So that's my pillow wedged up against the wall behind me. Just to clarify why mine looks so messy.
And mine doesn't look good, but I should sit in front of the fireplace because it looks a lot better, but I couldn't be asked.
I was going to say, I've got one like that.
And you know the reason why the dog was all lovey-dovey? He dropped
It's
one.
either food or toilet.
No, he dropped one, yeah. It stunk. It was horrible. He's gone to bed for a bit.
There's nothing worse than a dog fart, putting it bluntly. There really isn't.
But on that note, thank you very much, you and everyone on the panel. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. Thank you. It's been fun. It's been great.
Thank you.
People back again, won't we, and have another discussion. Yeah.
It's been fantastic to join. It's been fantastic. It's my first time, and I hope to join you again because I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's just something.
We'll have to sort this out. Yeah, it's been good, but I've enjoyed it. Thank you everyone, and good night. Stay safe.